Medieval Mode is an official game mode that was shipped to TF2 during the Australian Christmas update. Like with many new game modes the TF team adds to its lineup, there's usually only one map that ever gets released for it. With all the weapon restrictions that this game mode imposes, you'd assume that it'd get pretty stale over time. And in many ways, it kinda has. That being said, there's definitely an established meta for this game mode, which I'll be explaining in great detail, because there's a surprising amount of depth to it. I'm gonna make a tier list for this game mode and explain why each class sits where they are on the list, starting from the bottom and making our way up. Here it is, my personal tier list for Medieval Mode. Sitting all alone in D tier is the Engineer, and it's not hard to see why. If you're like me and have played Medieval Mode for quite some time, you'll notice that nobody really picks Engie. He has poor base health, only average movement speed, and subpar weapon options. You'll probably see an Engie player run any of his weapons since none of them really have that many advantages over the other. The Gunslinger boosts his health to that of the medics, and replaces his ability to deal random crits with a 3-hit combo system. On every third continuous hit, he'll throw out a crit punch, which when combined with his other 2 hits, will net him a KO on any class, assuming they all hit. Next up is the Southern Hospitality, which deals no crits, the base melee damage, but also inflicts bleeding. It sounds nice on pen and paper, but since every killed player drops a small health kit, it's gonna be a rather rare occurrence to have somebody bleed to death. There's also the Jag, which deals slightly less damage, but has a higher swing speed, plus random crits, which makes you just a discount scout without the speed benefits. You could also teleport away with the Eureka effect, but that's not a very notable strategy at all. Lastly, there's Any Other Wrench, which deals consistent damage. Not a bad option. Overall, the Engie is an off-class that is outclassed in pretty much every way possible, and I'll go further in depth on that later on. Next up, on the lower end of C tier, we have the Pyro. With 175 health, average speed, and one of the most powerful weapons in the form of the Back Scratcher, the Pyro sounds like it should be a great class for this mode. Unfortunately, that's all Pyro has that makes it noteworthy at all. The Back Scratcher deals 25% extra damage, has random crits, and gains even more health from the random small health packs that are littered around the place. This Pyro will excel at picking stray kills or one-on-one scenarios, but that's almost all it has going for it. Pyro is prone to being overwhelmed by ambushes and random crits, and really doesn't offer much else than that, aside from some other odd weapon choices. The other most used weapon is probably the Power Jack, and it's an okay choice. It gives you a faster movement speed and 75 health on kill, also providing overheal. It's offset by a 20% damage vulnerability, so you may end up dying before you can live out your melee kill spree fantasy. Neither that, or be picked off by a stray crit, even while overhealed. You could use the Sharpened Volcano Fragment, but it's only about as useful as the Southern Hospitality, thanks to the ever-present small health kits. However, with coordination, you could team up with a scout using the Sun on a Stick, or another Pyro with the Extinguisher for some coordinated picks on high-priority targets. Same goes for the combination of Mad Milk and the Neon Annihilator, though this is arguably much worse. Don't bother with the Homewrecker, since it isn't suited for Medieval Mode at all. Overall, Pyro is an off-class pick for this mode, but offers a much more straightforward playstyle, if you choose not to play anything fancy like Heavy or Demo Knight. On the higher end of C tier sits the Scout. Don't take this the wrong way, the Scout has a lot of positives going for him which make him a low-key threat on any team, but also sports very obvious downsides that keep him low. In his secondary slot, he can equip Bonk to escape to safety or be a short-lived distraction. Not much to it really. Critical can be used to enhance his mobility and strength for a limited time, and while this can net him a kill or two, if he's not careful, he will die incredibly fast. Mad Milk is there to throw at priority targets or clusters of enemies, which provides his team with small bursts of health when the soaked enemy takes damage. The Flying Guillotine is there to give Scout a ranged option, which is actually rather important in the medieval meta. It can pick off weakened enemies with its base 50 damage and makes them bleed. Any Scout you see running this as well as the Sandman is there to give you a hard time and play a mean game of keep away. Though this is subject to change if the jungle update comes out. For Scout's melee options, he can run a lot of things. The Sandman stun mechanic is another thing that gives the Scout some ranged options, which let him keep his distance or distract his enemies. Combining the stun with the flying guillotine inflicts critical damage and has the potential to kill a soldier at full health. The Atomizer gives Scout a third jump, which makes him one of only 2 characters that can scale the castle walls while the gate is down. It's not a good combat weapon though. The Boston Basher can also let Scout scale the wall and provides bleed damage on hit, though if you miss that applies to yourself too. It's a very risky option. The Fan of War can provide support by marking an enemy for death, while you perform crits against them as well. These are pitifully weak. The Candy Cane makes the Scout's melee scenarios just a bit more worthwhile, because the enemy will drop 2 health kits now if the Scout manages to secure a kill. The Sun on a Stick is good if you're teaming up with a Pyro or a Huntsman Sniper to a lesser extent, and can make for a rewarding strategy, though should your Pyro buddy be killed, you're much weaker on your own. The Rap Assassin is the worst weapon in the game and you should never use it, unless you're a meme lord. The Flying Guillotine does its gimmick better. With all that being said, Scout can be a great class in the right hands, though since the Scout is incredibly frail, you must play him with caution. Either that or be a long-range prick. He's pretty good at that. On the lower end of B tier sits the face of TF2, the Soldier, which I would actually consider a bit of an off-class pick in this mode. Sure, he has a bulky 200 health and some fantastic weapons, but unsupported, he's pretty slow. Second slowest class in the game, and he doesn't get rocket jumps to augment this either. Like the Scout, he has a diverse pool of weapons he can draw from. The most common thing you're going to see is a banner-wielding soldier. If he has a buff banner, he gets no passive benefits from just having it, but you know he's going to go for a coordinated team push if he can manage to top off the rage meter. More commonly, you'll probably find soldiers using the Conqueror, and yes, it's pronounced conch, not conch. SpongeBob lied to you. The pun in the weapon's name works perfectly this way. Anyways, they'll probably use the Conqueror over the buff banner because of its passive self-healing ability, which makes for a very conservative playstyle and gives Soldier a larger chance of activating the Conch's banner. To provide a cluster of teammates faster movement speed and health on hit makes for an incredibly threatening strategy. The battalion's backup is not nearly as popular as the other banners, despite the 20 health bonus it gives you. A defensive buff that blocks critical hits seems like a sound idea in medieval mode, the crit-friendly game mode, but at the same time you're still vulnerable to stuff like backstabs. There's one more backpack item, the base jumper, though you're not going to see this thing at all unless you're trying to do the map exploit and go out of bounds. The man treads are an incredibly cheeky and situational option. If you're on top of the castle walls, you can try to jump on unaware enemies for a solid chunk of damage, but I'll tell you now, you're rarely going to manage to net a kill with them unless the enemy was weakened beforehand or is playing as the spy using the Conniver's Connive, and for some reason, not using the Dead Ringer. Lastly, there's gunboats. You're never going to explosive jump, and jumping on an enemy Demo Zulupool Caber explosion doesn't count either. Don't use them here. As far as Soldier's melee options go, only 2 really stand out. You can use the half Zatuichi to become a discount Demo Knight, though the addition of team supporting banners gives him something Demo doesn't. The Zatuichi deals consistent damage, has longer melee range, insta-kills rival demos and soldiers also wielding it, and gives you half of your total health on kill. It's like a Power Jack Pyro, but not nearly as vulnerable. Another fun fact, the damage you deal when you kill an enemy that also wields the half Zatuichi will be enough to either almost fill your rage meter or fill it up all the way. The other most commonly used weapon for the soldier is the disciplinary action, which is arguably his best melee option. Yes, it suffers from a 25% damage penalty, but that doesn't matter since this monster can deal random crits. I also forgot to mention, it has the longest melee range in the entire game, giving Soldier the advantage in any 1v1 scenario. Having problems with spies that trick stab you? It's got you covered. Literally. The range on this thing is so large that it hits things right behind you. It also gives you speed when whipping teammates, and that'll help overcome Soldier's greatest weakness, his bad mobility. Soldier has other melee options, but they aren't notable really. The Equalizer, before the great pickaxe split of 2012, was the Soldier meta in medieval mode, but now it's a rather bad option since you won't be able to go on massive low health killing sprees while you're as slow as you are. The escape plan is also not a very good option. You take constant mini crit damage just to go faster at low health, but it's highly unlikely that you'll end up using it as an offensive advantage. Mobility is important, but if running as fast as the scout means having a sneeze be all it takes to kill you, then you better be good at dodging absolutely everything. The pain train is a very good weapon, though you probably won't notice it being used very much. Having the capture rate of the scout while also not being as frail as a scout makes you an important asset for your team. That being said, Demoman can make better use of this weapon. Lastly, although the Market Gardener is the most fun weapon in the game, you shouldn't use it in medieval mode. There's only one way it could possibly crit, and that kind of scenario is never going to happen, unless you are actually coordinating with an enemy demo, like so. You're better off with random crits. Soldier's high health being offset by his low speed is detrimental, since you'll be an easy pick for snipers and spies, and to a lesser extent medics. But if you choose the right weapons and play your strengths right, you can turn the tide of battle. Don't underestimate the Soldier. Just above Soldier, and only by a very tiny margin, sits the Heavy, and you may be wondering why. With 300 health, Heavy's the definitive tank class. He also has the slowest movement speed in the entire game, though there is ways to change that. There's actually just one Heavy set that sets him in this position, and that's the tried and true Buffalo boxing strat, where you can go on a near unstoppable rampage, using the added speed from the Buffalo Steak Sandwich, and the Killing Gloves of Boxing's 5 seconds of guaranteed crits on kill. It's that much of a force to be reckoned with, giving the Heavy unparalleled crowd control capabilities. If an attacking Heavy clears at the final control point, you're probably going to lose the game. I'm not only here to talk about that strat though. Heavy has more going for him. He can equip one of 3 lunchbox items, each with varying effects. The Sandwich will always help a Heavy in a pinch by bringing him back to full health, but can also serve as a medium health pack if dropped. The Buffalo Steak Sandwich gives Heavy 15 seconds of increased movement speed and guaranteed mini-crit damage against enemies, the trade-off being 25% damage vulnerability. 300 health is already a lot to begin with, so the damage vulnerability isn't too much of an issue if you play the Heavy smart. The Steak can also act as a medium health pack for teammates. Lastly, there's the Delocus Bar, which doesn't take nearly as long to recharge like the other 2 lunchbox items. It brings Heavy's health up to 350 and heals for 100 damage upon consumption, also providing Heavy with overheal. You can drop it to provide your teammates with a small health kit if needed. When it comes to Heavy's melee options, there's more to consider than just the KGB, though they require smarter play. The Gloves of Running Urgently give Heavy better mobility without having to eat a steak sandwich first, but force him to take mini-crit damage while they're out. They also deal 25% less damage overall, so they're not quite as effective for actual combat situations. The Warrior Spirit does the highest base damage out of all the melee weapons in the game, and when combined with the Buffalo Steak Sandwich, it can allow Heavy to one-shot classes like a Sandman Scout, since it deals 115 damage per punch. It also restores 50 health on kill, allowing you to fight even more. The trade-off with this strat is that you have an effective 55% damage vulnerability debuff, and will die in 3 melee hits, if not just one straight crit from a weapon with a higher damage bonus attribute, like the Skull Cutter. The Eviction Notice isn't going to be seen very often since the damage reduction doesn't make up for the faster swing speed, but the speed boost on hit makes it good for chasing down retreating enemies. Still, not a very good weapon though. The Fist of Steel is a pretty great weapon, outside of medieval mode. Equipping it here is a death sentence. You can die from just one random crit from a stock weapon at full health. Snipers are the least of your worries when you wear this. The Holiday Punch isn't the best option all things considered, and you're probably going to die before you can finish off that taunt kill on a laughing enemy. It's still a cheeky and fun option. Overall, Heavy is an interesting bruiser that can either demolish the enemy team or get demolished in the process. Either that, or the nicest friendly you'll ever meet. There's like a 50-50 chance that they're friendly. If they are, keep them alive and be on good terms with them. You might need their sandwich sometime. You might be surprised about this pick for the lower A tier, but here he is, the Sniper. He may have the health and speed of the Engineer, but you're guaranteed to see them in every populated game of De Groot Keep, and it's not hard to see why. They have access to the Huntsman, the most powerful ranged option in the game mode. You will always find them using it to defend from atop the castle or below, trying to kill the snipers on the wall. There are fire pits near both popular sniper spots on the map, which gives Sniper added fire damage should his arrow connect with an enemy and not kill them. Sniper has a few things to wear on the secondary slot to passively help him in battle, which every sniper is pretty much guaranteed to equip. The Razorback may be seen as a complete joke in any other casual game mode, but it actually serves its purpose very well in medieval mode. Spies can only use their knives to deal damage, so that shuts down any spy's attempt to kill you. Attacking snipers are more likely to wear this than defending ones, since the defending ones are perched up on the wall and are safe from enemy spies. That is until the gate opens. You could also opt for the Darwin's Danger Shield, which for the time being gives you 150 health total and a slight bullet damage resistance, making it choice against medics and other snipers, since arrows and syringes count as bullet damage. Lastly, there's the Cozy Camper, which gives Sniper passive health regeneration, and to a lesser extent, flinch resistance, which may help since the Huntsman can fully charge itself very quickly. When it comes to the Sniper's melee options, he doesn't really have anything that's truly game-changing, but they get the job done. The Bushwhacker deals crit damage instead of mini-crit damage, and could be a very powerful force in conjunction with the Fan of War Soldier's buff banner. But the 20% damage vulnerability would ultimately put you at a disadvantage in any other scenario. The Shot-on-Shot is Sniper's version of the Equalizer, granting 25% less damage at over 50% health, and 25% more damage when under 50% health. It's actually a neat option since Sniper has decent enough mobility to actually make use of these attributes. Lastly, there's the Tribalman Shiv, which deals 50% less damage just to make the enemy bleed for 6 seconds. Like with the other bleed weapons, you're probably not going to get much out of it, especially if your opponent kills you before he bleeds to death and picks up your health kit. Sniper is an ever-present staple on DeGroot Keep, but he's vulnerable to close quarters combat situations. That being said, Sniper's arsenal is all he needs to be an omnipresent force in the game mode. In my personal opinion, placing just a bit higher than the Sniper would be the Spy, and for good reason. He moves as fast as the Medic and has low base health, but since most of his iconic abilities are indirectly buffed from the gameplay being mostly restricted to melee, the Spy becomes a massive threat. DeGroot Keep is the best place to practice trick stabbing since most classes can only attack through melee, so don't be surprised if one day you run into a competent Spy that face stabs you in the split second you turn around to face him. Now I'm aware that it's not actually face stabbing, but rather client-side view delay as the Spy Matador stabs you, but honestly, it won't look like that. If you fight one of these guys, keep looking at him straight on, and never let him out of your sight. Spy can cloak in one of 3 ways, and all are important to consider when playing him. The Cloak and Dagger offers Spies the ability to camp in one spot for as long as he needs, and take enemies by surprise. The Dead Ringer, as annoying as it is much worse in medieval mode. Spies that use it here are more likely to run away after activating it, abusing the temporary speed boost and the fast recharge rate. Fortunately, they don't have many places to run. Lastly, the Invisiwatch just offers an all-around useful invisibility technique, though some would argue that it's outclassed by the Cloak and Dagger. Their choice of knife can determine how they play, so keep an eye out. Stock knife is just as good of an option as any other knife, so you might see it most commonly used. The Conniver's Kunai is probably the second most popular option, used by crafty and most likely competent trick stabbers looking to lure you into their trap. Once they get that health boost, they will become much harder to kill. Thankfully, you can still one-shot them with any weapon with an added damage bonus if you can catch them before they get their first victim. That being said, these spies are definitely going to use the Dead Ringer. Spies that use the Big Earner are also very dangerous since each backstab they get causes them to move much faster for 3 seconds. A great spy will use this extra speed to outmaneuver you and stab you in the back, and then the next guy's back. Watch out. The worst option, though not a bad option whatsoever, would be the Your Eternal Reward, which trades the ability to disguise for a silent kill, disguising the spy in the process. The silent kill aspect is good for going on long tears before being detected, and could definitely turn the tide of battle. The Spycicle is a very niche option that only provides insurance from Huntsman arrows that are lit on fire and sharpened volcano fragment pyros. Spy's knife recharges instantly in this game mode, so you'll never be lit on fire. While Spy is an incredibly threatening force, keep in mind that Spy is still a very weak class if you manage to outplay him or simply ignore his attempts to bait you. Even still, watch out for the ones that would rather sneak up behind you and kill you the traditional way. With all that being said and done, even though some spies are going to give you a hard time, there is one true hard counter to them.
Appreciate it. Stab. Fine shot, mate. Stab. Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate. Incoming! Spy is not our spy! Move gear forward!
Alert, all our control point is being captured.
Appreciate it, mate. Stab.
Oh my god.
Stab.
You failed.
Stab. Stab.
Now we're at S tier, and the last two classes here are not necessarily better than each other, but perform different roles that still place them at the top. You may not see many medics on the Groot Keep since there isn't much focus on healing or supporting your team, but he's top tier, in my opinion, for good reason. He sports 150 health, which regenerates passively, and a slightly higher base speed than most normal classes like Sniper or Engineer, making him a decent combat class. Medic is the only other class that has a ranged attack in his primary weapon slot, and it alone makes him incredibly versatile. The Crusader's crossbow fulfills two roles on medieval mode: deal damage and heal damage. Medic can use the crossbow to heal teammates, which at longer distances heals more health. Medic can also use it as an attacking option, which at longer distances deals more damage. Whether the bolt hits your teammate or the enemy he's fighting will still mean your teammate gets the support he needed to secure victory. You're probably going to see this weapon used more offensively overall. Medics can sit with their fellow snipers and shoot below or above at the enemy team, or go full on battle medic and follow their team around, capturing or defending without being afraid to provide suppressive fire or pick off stray kills. Slow classes like Soldier or Heavy are absolutely prone to being bullied to death by crossbow medics, since they can't match or overcome the mobility he has. The crossbow is just that good, but I guess I gotta talk about his melee options. Medic doesn't actually have that much at all to work with, since both the Ubersaw and the Vitasaw have attributes that make them unviable in serious medieval play. Ubercharge doesn't even exist in this mode, so there's no benefits to using them over stock, unless you count taunt kills, but even then it's extremely situational, and the downsides you have from the Ubersaw are just not worth it. Setting them aside, you have two options that aren't stock. The Amputator is the weapon that was made with medieval mode in mind, and is the go-to option if you're willing to play the role of the White Mage. The Amputator's taunt heals every teammate around you in a rather wide radius. The heal rate of the Amputator is actually comparable to that of the Medigun, which is incredible since that also means it can crit heal allies too. Executing the taunt does leave you vulnerable for about 4 seconds, so be aware of your surroundings if you wish to stay alive. Your team should also be there to defend you while you heal them, but if you end up dying while healing them, they could still avenge you or get their objective done. The damage penalty will mean you're at a disadvantage in direct combat, but then again you also have the crossbow. Actually, alternating between the crossbow and a melee strike is an incredibly effective strategy. The other weapon Medic can use is the Solemn Vow, which lets you see enemy health in exchange for 10% slower firing speed. It's an alright option. If you're looking to maximize melee damage output, you'll run stock though. Medic is fast and can harass you from any range constantly if he has to, so look out for these guys. They're incredibly powerful in the right hands. But that being said, Medic is still pretty frail. But that doesn't matter because he's probably going to be hiding behind his team and support him from far away, which could lead to a very annoying situation. Take him out as soon as possible if you can. Last but not least, and probably your exact guess for the top tier spot, it's the poster boy of the game mode, Demoman. Sporting either 175 or 200 health, depending on if he uses the Eyelander, and I guess the booties, the capacity to reach areas nobody else could, and an incredibly diverse selection of weapons, it's not hard to see why in every game you'll find several Demonites going right at it. The primary slot is mostly going to be used for Alibaba's wee booties, since 25 health negates the Eyelander's only real downside, and extra movement speed goes a long way. The other primary option is the base jumper, which again isn't going to be used very often unless the user wants to avoid any sort of fall damage. Chances are, you're only going to see this equipped on demos that want to go to the island. The secondary slot is reserved for a choice of 3 shields, which every Demoman is going to want to equip. The most popular option right now is the Tide Turner, and although it doesn't boast the raw power of the Splendid Screen, or the guaranteed crits at the end of the charge, it more than makes up for it with the ability to fully turn around while charging. Turning with this thing is so ridiculously useful in any situation, fight or flight. Moving side to side in air will make Demoman reach incredible speeds that lead to unorthodox and unexpected surprise attacks. And charging on the ground can make you swerve unpredictably before connecting with the opponent. Combined with the booties, any melee kill made while this is equipped will immediately refill the charge meter, making for very ridiculous chain attacks. The Splendid Screen trades the resistances the Charge and Targe has for a more damaging charge instead. It also features a better recharge rate compared to the Targe, which is also improved by equipping the Persian Persuader for more constant charging action. In addition, the Splendid Screen will deal even more shield damage the more heads you collect with the Eyelander, maxing out at 127.5 damage upon impact. This kills low health classes instantly. The least popular shield is the Charge and Targe, and even though it's my personal favorite, it's outclassed compared to the other shields. The fire resistance it provides is useful, and any Demoman wielding the caper will be pitifully weak against you, but that's the only positive qualities it has compared to the other shields. It's more suited to non-medieval matches as a hybrid knight subclass. Demoman's selection of melee weapons is so diverse that you really can't know what to expect when facing them. To start off, there's the Eyelander, which is not the most common weapon you'll see, but can be the most threatening one he has. Collecting heads by killing enemies grants a passive boost in health and speed, with only 4 heads being needed to be at full power. With the booties equipped, you'll have 235 health and move almost as fast as a scout. You could chase down a scout running backwards actually. This is dangerous enough as it is, but when you also factor the extra melee range, it's always threatening, and you may not even be able to get away once he's on his rampage. The Persian Persuader is a sword that's best paired with the Splendid Screen, granting the wearer 20% charge rate when collecting ammo boxes and when hitting an enemy, making for a hit and run playstyle that makes it almost guaranteed that should you run away, he's gonna catch up to you sooner than you'd expect it. The Scotsman's Skull Cutter is a terrifying weapon for a multitude of reasons. Its only downside is augmented by equipping the booties, it has the extra melee range all sword weapons have, it deals 20% more damage, but most importantly, it can dish out random crits. I am terrified of this weapon because of how easily it could kill you when you least expect it. The crit rate grows based on damage dealt over a period of time, and considering that this weapon deals as much damage as it does, you may find that there's just non-stop critting with this thing. Watch out. The half Zatuichi, while not as insanely broken as it used to be, is still a threatening asset any Demonite should consider. Refilling half of your health on kill with the potential for overhealing yourself makes fighting these guys an uphill battle. Though they can't reap the benefits that banner-wielding soldiers get when they kill another katana wielder, the potential for instant kills is something to fear in the hands of a class so mobile. This weapon, pronounced Claymore and not Claydemore or Claydehemore, is the bastard child of the Eyelander and the Persian Persuader. It rewards the player with 25 health and 25% charge on kill while leaving you 15% more vulnerable to damage from all sources. These qualities make it rather unpopular. Finally, venturing out of sword territory, the other 2 weapons that Demoman can use have different strengths that the swords lack. The pain train is shared with the soldier, but Demoman can use it to greater effect with his superior mobility. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R used to be really good, and although now it's a shell of its former self, you shouldn't totally dismiss it, since using it in conjunction with the charge can still create a critical explosion swing that'll destroy everything but heavies or overhealed soldiers. It's probably worth noting that the explosion deals less damage than the warrior's spirit for heavy, but then again, the damage has a wide range. That about concludes it for the Demoman, and it's not hard to see why so many people play as him in Medieval. The diverse amount of options he has at his disposal makes for a wide variety of ways you can unleash hell upon your enemies. And he can be anywhere, at any given time too. Nothing is beyond a Demo Knight's reach. Nothing is safe either. So there you have it, that's my personal tier list for Medieval mode. A game mode which not that many people play in the first place, but it still holds a very special place in my heart. Do you disagree with anything that I said in this video? Feel free to tell me what you think. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again real soon.
Nailed it.